This is Renee Romeo of ReneeRomeo.com, where I teach you how to DIY like a pro. So today's project is making a decadent Valentine's Day cake for your sweetheart. And you'll see I have a bowl full of cherries, I have some port wine, I have a baked cake already, and I have some cherries. But you know what? If your sweetheart doesn't like cherries, you can substitute any berry you'd like. Strawberries, raspberries, you name it. Go ahead and use that instead. So let me show you what you need to get started. What I've done at this point already is I've taken 8 cups of frozen cherries, and I've gone ahead and I've thawed them and drained them really well. And then I've reserved the liquid in a little container like this. And then from that point, I've taken the drained cherries and I've added 2 cups of port wine to the mixture and let it sit for about an hour and a half. So those are ready to go and they're drained as well. And I've reserved the port wine and I've actually put it in my cake. But you know what? If you're short on time, go ahead and use a box mix. It's fine for this. Just make sure that whatever box mix you choose doesn't have pudding in the mix and isn't a super moist cake, because you want this cake to be a little on the dry side, and I'll show you why, because there's a great secret to this. So the secret to getting a nice flat cake is when you take the cake out of the oven, immediately grab a kitchen towel and really press down on that cake. It might take about 30 seconds, but after 30 seconds, this is going to lay nice and flat. But really, you almost need to use a cake leveler at this point too, just to make sure that you get this nice and even. This cake is going to be a rustic looking cake, and so you're going to see the sides of it. It's not going to be frosted on the edges, so we need to make sure everything looks nice and neat. So I've trimmed the top of the cake. It's nice and level, and you'll see I've only got a little tiny bit of cake here. One thing about this is that you've got a little taste tester in case something went really wrong in your recipe, and the other thing is that you preserved a lot of your cake. So at this point, I'd like to make this layer into 2 layers, and I have a cake leveler here. It's got a little band here that kind of slices through the cake, and I've measured it, making sure that I'm going to get nice even layers. This is 2 inches thick, so each layer is going to be an inch. And I'm just going to take this and kind of just run it through the cake and make sure that everything's nice and level. The filling and the frosting are one and the same, and so what we're going to do is do it in 2 parts. So one part is a cheese mixture and the other part is a special buttercream mixture. And for the cheese mixture, I'm using mascarpone cheese. I have 2 containers of this, and I'm simply going to go ahead and just pulse this in along with the cherries and a little bit of powdered sugar. And the mixture's already starting to come together, so you're just going to come in here and scrape this a couple times just to make sure that you get everything off the sides and get it nicely mixed together. This is what the mascarpone cheese mixture looks like when it's done, and so I've added a little food coloring to this and also some sugar. So at this point I could just go ahead and set this aside. Now I'm working on the buttercream, and so I have 2 cups of softened butter in a bowl along with 2 cups of powdered sugar that I've mixed, and you'll see it's nice and creamy at this point. I've mixed it at low speed until it reaches a smooth paste. So at this point I can go ahead, raise my mixer, and I'm going to start adding some sweetened condensed milk on low speed and just pour it in ever so slowly until it's nice and incorporated and fluffy. And this is what it looks like when it's done. Beautiful, stiff consistency. In a separate bowl, I'm mixing up egg whites, but I'm not using real eggs. I'm using meringue powder. So it's 2 tablespoons meringue powder to 2 tablespoons of water, and you get this nice mixture where once it starts actually coming together, you're going to go ahead and you're going to add powdered sugar. The whole process has taken about 10 minutes, but you'll see it's a beautiful, silky looking consistency, super stiff, perfect for what we're going to do. We're going to add this to the buttercream, mix it together, and it's going to wind up looking beautiful. I've added the butter mixture and the meringue mixture together, and so I'm just going to combine this on low with my beater bar here, just until everything is nice and incorporated. So this is what the buttercream looks like when it's all done. It's nice and stiff, and I'm adding about 1/3 of this into my cherry and cheese mixture, and I'm just going to mix this up on high for a couple of minutes just to incorporate it. Now comes the fun part. So I'm working off of a sketch. Most everything is mixed. I have to go ahead and mix up some ganache, but I really want to get the cake assembled first. And this is a really easy process. I have a couple of pastry bags, one full of my buttercream and the other one full of my cheese mixture. So the way that I get this started, I'm just going to put a little bit of buttercream in a circle in the center, and I'm going to take one of these cake layers. And this cake layer I'm just going to set down on my piece of cardboard. So it's an 8-inch piece of cardboard. And incidentally, this is an 8-inch cake, so it's going to be nice and tall when it's done. Now at this point, I'm just taking a toothpick and I'm just poking some small holes into the top of this cake, and it actually feels a lot more like a bread than a cake. So I've got my cherry mixture here that we're just going to go ahead and just sprinkle on the top of this, and we're going to try to do this in quarters to try to soak the cake a little bit and really give it some wonderful infusion of cherry flavor. I have a number 12 tip. It's a round tip, and so I'm just going to go ahead and put a ring around the outer edge of the cake. And then I have a large round tip with the cheese mixture, and I'm just going to go ahead and put this in. And the buttercream is going to act kind of like a moat and keep this in place. Followed by another ring of buttercream. And we'll just finish off with some buttercream in the center. And we're going to do each layer the exact same way. And you'll notice this is the top of the cake, so I'm working on the bottom side, the cut side. So that's really the side that's going to allow you to get that cherry juice to soak into the cake. Now you'll see I'm adding a little bit more buttercream frosting in between the layers here, and I'm just going to take an offset spatula and smooth it out to really give it that rustic look. Let's just start smoothing this out and see how it looks. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. The chocolate ganache that gets poured on top of the cake actually gets made in the food processor. So I have a 10-ounce bag of chocolate chips, and the chocolate chips are just going to be poured in, and I'm just going to process these till it's nice and fine. And this recipe is usually equal parts chocolate, equal parts cream. But in my case, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more cream than usual. So the 10 ounces of chocolate, I'll add 12 ounces of cream to this, and then I'm going to heat the cream up to boiling point. The cream is at the boiling point, and I'm going to pour about 3/4 of this over the top of the chocolate and then cover it and let it sit for about 5 minutes. I'm looking for a really nice smooth consistency here, and I'm almost there. So all I'm doing is pouring just a little bit of this warm cream in just to melt those little last bit of specks. I just took the cake out of the refrigerator and I transferred all the chocolate to this container. It's going to give me a lot more control over where this ganache goes. So all I'm doing here, I'm starting in the middle and I'm just kind of going all the way around in concentric circles until all of this is covered nice and neat. And then we're just going to get this to drip over the edges, and I've got this on a turntable, so it's actually sitting on the presentation plate that I have, but it's on top of a turntable, so I'll have a lot more control over this to be able to cover this evenly. You'll see I'm starting to drip it down the edges, just like so. Now I'd say this is about 1/8 of an inch thick. By the time everything gets on there, it's about 1/8 of an inch thick. I can kind of go back over those areas that I missed. So I really want a nice edge here all along this top lip. And you see how I can manipulate that and actually put in a little extra chocolate here and there just to kind of thicken that up. And I kind of like the idea that this is puddling onto the plate itself. Looks really pretty. So I'm working kind of quickly at this point, but you'll see I'm putting dollops on the top of the cake. I have my buttercream frosting with a number 21 tip, and all I'm doing, I'm just kind of moving along here in just concentric circles, just making these little dollops and then grabbing a cherry and sticking them on top. And then the next thing I'm going to do, I've got some sprinkles here, and just before the ganache actually gets nice and hard, I'm going to sprinkle it with some sprinkles and see how that looks. And since I have a lot of buttercream left and a lot of cherries, let's just go ahead and just put some along the bottom edge too. Well, the cake is all done, and if this doesn't scream Valentine's Day, I don't know what does. So, you know, you really should refrigerate this before you cut into it again, but you know what? I've got this gorgeous cake knife from India that a friend of mine brought, matches perfectly, and I just want to cut this open and look at the inside. Looks like a checkerboard. So cute, so Valentine's Day. And there's the piece all cut, and you can see, just gorgeous. And I bet you're wondering just how good this cake is. So let me try it and let you know. That's decadent. I think that's the best cake I've ever had. You know, if you follow my step-by-step instructions, you're going to get the same results that I do. And this is even better than a pro. Look at this thing. So make this for your sweetheart, make this for your family, friends, guests. They are gonna love you for this. This is Renee Romeo of ReneeRomeo.com. Please like, share, subscribe, and follow. And let me know below in the comments what you think of this project. If you'd like to see more of these. Wow, this is just amazing. So, happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Thanks for watching.